This is actually the ultimate cold open because my interpretation of today's show is How to Kill Your Parents with Mike Morton.
This is a new podcast.
Yes. I guarantee, how to get away with it. I guarantee it would get attention. Hey, it's Matt Robison, and I am with certified financial planner Mike Morton, and we are going to talk today about inheriting money from parents. And you know what? We're not going to bore you with a lot of generic stuff, with a lot of, run-of-the-mill stuff. This is not your run-of-the-mill podcast because apparently I've already threatened to murder your parents. Mike, so this isn't the spicy version.
No. You're the spicy version. This is sort of hot wings. Wait, did we skip already straight to the hot wing?
Yes, right. We're going from a Scoville rating of 500,000 to 1.7 million. This hot sauce has no name. It's just a picture of a flaming toilet. So in all seriousness, and by the way, we are going to talk today about what to do if you are going to eventually be receiving an inheritance from your parents. But hang on, because there's more, as they say in the ad business. There's more, because also you want to get to a pretty picante listener question. Someone who says, I want to fire my financial advisor. Is this you? And you have the chutzpah to read this on the air? You, my friend, are bold.
No, it's a listener question. It's not a client. It's not a client question.
and hang on till the very, very end, because, and I know nothing about this, we haven't prepped this, but you, Mike, found a way to save $300 a month. I'm in for that. My math says that is a lot of money at the end of the year. So,
yes, I found a way to save myself $300 a year.
Wait,
it may or may not apply to your situation.
I am immediately less interested. You know what? That makes me angry. It doesn't make me grateful. It's like, wow, bully for you. But you're saying this may apply to my situation.
It may.
See, I'm back in.
You don't know.
Okay, I'm back in. All right. What's the non-joking version of this? You like how we're joking about death. What's the non-joking version of this? What do you want to cover today?
So today, I get this question a lot, that inheritance is a factor. I work with people middle of their career, similar to ages to us, Matt, where we've got some aging parents and kids at home, right? Kind of that sandwich generation. And so inheritance becomes part of the conversation. Either it may have happened, hey, I just received an inheritance from some parents or an aunt or uncle, or how do I think about an upcoming inheritance? I know my parents are doing very well. I'm very happy for them, but there might be something in my future. Should I plan for that? How to plan for that? So I kind of wanted to cover the inheritance topic, how to think about it if you've just received one, and what to do, the steps to do, and or if it might be something in your future.
All joking aside, this is the kind of thing that is very valuable to me. And I suspect to most people in the audience, because it's one of those things that you don't want to think about and you put off and you work around. It's emotional. It's difficult. It touches on a very hard, maybe the hardest issue we all face in our lives. And what I am hoping we're going to get out of this, and I think we're going to get out of this, is the easy, low stress as possible way to just make sure you've kind of checked the boxes in a few minutes and done the stuff you need to do. So you don't have to worry about the rest. This is a stressful topic enough. We're not going to learn.
Yeah, it is very stressful. And let's start with that, because it's the first thing. It's like, that's the point, is like, it's a very stressful time. It's overwhelming, both emotionally and financially. So one of my recommendations is just take your time. A lot of it, there's no rush, to have to make decisions on what to do. You can take your time to step through it. But let's start with the emotional. You're exactly right, Matt. There's two sides to an inheritance, the financial and the emotional. So on the emotional side, just take your time. There's going to be a lot of questions coming at you. There's going to be people like, there's this account, there's this thing, you got to decide, Just relax, take your time, work through it one thing at a time, and don't stress or worry about having to move quickly or make decisions too quickly.
One of the aphorisms that I've gotten really into in the last few years is slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And there's especially at a stressful time, there's a temptation to move through the steps quickly in order to get them done with, because it's unpleasant to deal with, because it involves details that you don't want to deal with, and you're at a vulnerable time. You're actually going to be faster about it if you're slower and you're smoother, and you don't, take the wrong path and take missteps.
Yeah, geez, man, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I hadn't thought about this till now, but let me tell you a client story.
Please.
On that topic, where someone's sister had passed away, and he was inheriting some money from his sister, and some was in a brokerage account, some was in an IRA, some was in a Roth IRA. And the bank is like, hey, we got to, process all this stuff, and you never know who you're going to get at the bank. And they said to him, hey, this Roth IRA inherited, just got to, let's just take that money out, put it in your brokerage account. There's no tax implications. And he's like, okay, I guess there's multiple accounts flying around. It's not just one thing, right? It's all this stuff, paperwork. And he's like, oh, okay. So he catches up with me a couple months later. Hey, I took here's where I am, still making some decisions, but we took the Roth IRA and just kind of moved the 100,000 over to my brokerage account. And there's no tax implications, that's right, but it could have been left in the Roth IRA for longer. And it could be growing tax-free inside the Roth IRA instead of now having 100 grand in a brokerage account. So there's an example where by rushing, listening to somebody that was trying to give some good advice, but not taking your time with the full picture across the board of the multiple accounts and what's going on, he lost out on an opportunity for growing the money tax-free for longer.
Just to brass tacks this, could you ballpark, if you're dealing with an inheritance, what kind of time scale are you really dealing with to make these kinds of decisions? Are we talking about 1 month, 6 months, 2 years?
Yeah, usually have, let's call it on the order of months, okay, to work through these things. So and you get pushed because the executor of the estate is trying to close out the estate. Someone's passed away. You've got to file final tax returns. You have to file an estate tax return. There's a house, there's brokerage accounts, there's, literal stuff to deal with. So there's a lot that someone's working through. So that person has a lot of moving parts. And so it's pressuring, everybody else in the system, like, hey, here's this thing, you got to do this. Here's this thing, you got to do this. But that process does take months. Okay. So when you're at that receiving end of like, hey, there's some accounts, we got to do some paperwork, slow down for a few weeks, make sure you get some good advice, and you've got some time.
So as the bottom line takeaway to me from this is recognize immediately that you have months to deal with these things, slow it down, smooth it out. And, as with all steps that you have to take in financial planning, schedule a time with someone who can comprehensively walk through it with you step by step, consider all the implications, get that on the schedule for a time that you're ready to deal with it, and know that that doesn't have to be this week. All right, let's go on to the next piece of this, because one of the things you were suggesting to me is that there are also just a few nuances to navigate here. And again, we're going to keep this simple, high level, implementable, practical. So we're not going to go into deep dives, but you do have to understand some differences in the situation. So what is that piece of it?
Well, I think that's the first piece that I would look at in this. Hey, something's happened. You're inheriting something. So what is that thing or things? And really take your time. Again, take your time and put it all together on a page, right? Say like, okay, it might be some real estate. It might just be some cash. It might be coins. It might be some gold. It could be investments. It could be multiple investments in multiple accounts. Okay. Each of them has different implications, tax implications, logistics of how to move it into your name and take over. And so my first recommendation is always understand what it is you're inheriting, put it all into one big picture as well. So, and gain that understanding, and then start working through for each of the pieces, what's the steps, what's the process? Does it have to get appraised? Does it need to be, organized across different accounts? Because there's tax implications. So I'll give you another example. Maybe the wishes of the person passing away is to give it to 3 siblings. Hey, I'm going to leave 500,000 to 3 siblings. The 500,000 is in multiple accounts. Okay. Some of them are tax deferred, some tax free, some taxable. And so you want to look at the big picture and understand where should each set of money go to follow, the letter of the law, but also the wishes of the person can have big tax implications. If someone inheriting is in a different tax bracket, you might want to inherit this account and not this account.
I see.
So there's, you want to take your time in all of these and get the right people involved to give you advice, like you said, Matt, at the comprehensive level as well.
Right.
Now, of course, sometimes it's pretty straightforward. Hey, I'm just inheriting $10,000 from this person. Like, okay, great, no big deal. But just, first gain that understanding what you're getting and how you're going to have to deal with it.
Right. You could, for example, be inheriting a lizard. This is actually literally something that happened to me. I'm not making this up. I inherited an iguana, and I had to take the time to understand this was an iguana that had never received the proper amount of sunlight. So it was stunted and it was ornery about this. No, I'm serious. This was a stunted iguana, and it was perpetually in a bad mood, and it kept confusing me for food and trying to eat me, even though iguanas are vegetarians. So there was a lot of subtle nuance that I had to work through
to understand. Yes,
the iguana principle is basically what we're saying here.
That should be the name of our new band, Matt. The Stunted Iguana.
How about the iguana principle? All right, we'll workshop that offline. What else? What else should people have in mind as they're kind of slowly going through this? They're taking their time, setting up a schedule. They want to understand the implications. What else is in the mix here?
Another thing that's kind of in the mix is there might be something you want to think about for the person you're receiving from in terms of goals or legacy. All right. So a couple ends of the spectrum there, there could be some goals that you have for this money. Hey, I've got some debt I wanted to pay down. So, kind of think about this inheritance, how you want to use it going forward. Have some plans, maybe there's some goals you want to accomplish. The flip side is a legacy. A lot of times I talk to clients and they have some great memories, of the person where they're inheriting, and they want to do some things specifically for that. I'll give you an example. I know somebody that received a few $100,000, kind of parked the money, doesn't need it right away, and each year takes the interest from that and has a trip, a small trip that sort of honors that person where the money came from. And so it's a way to remember that person and kind of build a little bit of a legacy there.
Let me ask the kind of the other side of the coin of this, which is you're talking about having that thoughtfulness after the fact. What about before the fact? I think this gets into some of the joke that we were making at the top. It's like, so you're planning to bump off a parent, but maybe you're not. Maybe in all seriousness, you're starting to think ahead about questions like this. It's like, hey, there might be an inheritance here. What am I going to do with it? And having a plan for it in advance sounds like it could be really helpful.
Let's break this up into two parts, Matt. So the first part, let's cover kind of, hey, I might be getting an inheritance. How do I think about that or plan for that? And then I want to leave this, the next part of this conversation is also a better way of inheriting is before someone dies. All right. So let's talk about that next. So first, the planning piece. And I run across this all the time. Client comes in, hey, want to plan for our future and our kids' future and make sure we're set to retire in 10 or 15 years. And we start working through all the income and expenses and the kids' education plan and stuff. And then they say, oh yeah, my parents are, they're great financially. Don't have to support them or worry about them. I might inherit, they've told me maybe $500,000 or they've got a house they paid off and a beach house and we're going to inherit that. So we're talking, some pretty significant money. My sibling and I are going to get $500,000 each. How do you think about that? That's what clients always ask me, like, how do I think about that? And I always say this, well, first, it depends how you want to consider that. All right. Some people say, look, I want to plan on my own. I want to set up, everything on my own. I don't want to expect anything. So let's just plan for that. And I say, great, let's plan for that. And we're going to work this amount, save this and whatever, not worry about it. Other people say, well, I'm pretty sure this is going to happen. How do I factor it in? And in that case, what I say is, let's earmark something in the plan down the road, 15 years, 30 years from now, you get $500,000. Because what I really don't want is for people to feel like they have to kind of keep grinding and working for the next 15, 20 years, to reach all their goals, right? And accomplish what they want to. and then receive a nice inheritance where it turns out they just didn't need to work that hard for that long. So I really want to balance that and say, like, I don't want you to wake up one day 15 years from now, like, why did I work so hard for so long? And now I have sort of more money than I need. Yeah. And it's really hard, Matt, to do that when you're in it, right? It's like any problem when you're the person in the problem. Yeah, of course you can't find your way out of a box. That's why it's sometimes helpful to have a third party or partner that's like, no, we could spend this money. It's going to be okay. Like, look at the plan. It's part of the plan. It's going to be okay.
Right. Exactly.
I do want to get back to the second part.
Yeah.
Okay, what's a better way of doing this? It's to inherit money before the person passes away.
Yeah.
This is way better. Okay. So here's an idea. We won't spend too much time on it today because maybe we'll have another episode because this gets into a lot of estate planning and legacy planning because I run across this a lot, Matt, where what happens is parents are doing well. Say you're doing great and you've got a couple of million, you're going to retire soon. You've got a few million and you're going to live another 20 or 30 years. And that, you're living on that income. And so your investments are going to double and triple, right? Like every 7 or 10 years, they're going to double. So it's going to go 2 million to 4 million to 8 million. And someone's going to inherit that money, like all 8 million. I mean, these are good problems to have, but they're real. Like I've run across this that again, being inside the box, it's like, oh yeah, sure, Mike, whatever. But money doubles over time. And so that's what happens. So you can start planning, legacy planning for kids and grandkids and those kinds of things. So I'll leave you with this. It's better to think about using money during a lifetime than after someone's passed away. All right. So wouldn't it be better, like look at your own life. Wouldn't it be better? You've got kids. Wouldn't it be better if when you're in retirement and the kids are in this crazy phase we're in now, Matt, that they could go on that family trip? Hey, here's $5,000, to go on this family trip. And you're like, oh, wow, this is such a great time to have $5,000 so I can go on this great family trip and build these memories with my kids. So think about that for your own family, either your parents, yourself. Isn't it better to use money and see the money used, the enjoyment used during a time that can be very stressful or busy when we feel like we don't have a lot of money? So I feel that there's a lot of opportunity for that.
And it can even be small bore. I mean, it occurs to me that one of the things my own mother has started doing is she's making monthly contributions to the kids' 529 accounts. Well, if you think about where she is in the life cycle as a retiree, she is in a relatively low risk, low variance portfolio of investments appropriate to someone in retirement who wants to protect their downside loss. And by transferring those funds to us through the 529, and we're in a kind of target date fund investment situation for those education funds, they're in a more aggressive, more growth oriented. So in a way, it's taking the same dollars and it's making the pie higher by getting them transferred over now. And it's sort of a win-win for everyone. And it goes to that exact point of my mom gets to know that she's taking her savings and putting it exactly where she wants it to go, which is to her grandchildren's education.
There you go, man. I love it. And she is going to enjoy that a lot more than you just getting that money later on. She won't enjoy that at all.
She will not. She will not. I enough said on that. Okay. Let's get to the listener question. I was kidding when I said it was a veiled reference to someone wanting to fire you. Probably. It's Probably. Someone. Okay, so here's the listener question, and I will remind everyone that if you like these listener questions, or if you've got a listener question and you want to get in on the action, all you got to do is email the show. It's at realfinancialplanning@gmail.com. That's realfinancialplanning@gmail.com. Couldn't be simpler. All right, here is the anonymous listener question. Real question. I inherited $750,000 a couple of years ago and had no way to handle it, so I hired a financial advisor to manage that for me. I've now learned more about investing and feel that I can do this on my own. How do I go about making that transition? First of all, kudos for the wonderful euphemism of transition. What you mean is, how do I fire my financial gal or guy? We understand what you're doing here. And second of all, I hope that what you're implicitly saying is you've learned so much about investing because you're a listener to this show. So I think that's the embedded message there. All right, Mike, what's the answer?
Wonderful. First, congratulations on listening to this show so much and learning so much that you now feel equipped to handle this. But in all seriousness, this is exactly what we kind of started the show with. There's a big emotional side and maybe a learning piece, right? Like, geez, $750,000, suddenly that's a lot of money. I don't know what to do with that, and nor would I know how to invest it or whatever. So great job. Yeah, get a professional, to help you out. But then now, a year or two later, you feel like maybe the emotions, have gone and you've learned like, geez, now I have this amount of money. What's investing like? Did some reading, did some learning, and feel equipped to handle that. So great job, because I'm a fan of people being in charge of, their life and including their investments and really having a stake in it and understanding it. And it doesn't have to be that complicated. So literally to go about firing your financial advisor that has been, managing investments is very straightforward. And that's what I tell clients is that, not my clients, hopefully, but people in general, it's very straightforward because it happens all the time in the industry. Okay. People move money all the time. Clients feel very emotional, like I'm firing this person. Yeah. Okay. But this is just a business relationship. And if it's going to be better for you, that's what you should do. All right. So it's literally as easy as, calling them up, sending an email. Look, thank you very much. Thank you for everything you've done for me. Really appreciate it. You helped me out at a time when I didn't know what I was doing, but now I feel like I've made a lot of progress. I'd like to take over these accounts. And then that advisor would just help you move the accounts into self-managed accounts. All the accounts kind of stay the same investment-wise, but now you're in charge of managing the accounts, making the investments, making the trades. So that's literally how easy it is. You just have a call or an email and say, look, I'd like to do this thing. I'd like to transition them to self-managed brokerage accounts. I'd like to take them over myself. And hopefully it's a very smooth transition.
I will also point out, I'm a big fan, like in the movie Moneyball, of treat someone like a professional and just be direct, be honest, be seated, be brief.
Yeah.
That said, it is time to get to our one thing closing segment. And as teased at the top of the show, I have no idea what's about to happen here. I just know that I'm going to fall somewhere on the spectrum from, ooh, intriguing, this could help me a lot, to I am angry at Mike that he is getting this fabulous thing that he's discovered and I am not. I'm waiting with bated breath. Tell us, what is your big discovery?
I think it's going to be neither of those outcomes. I think you're going to laugh at me. So I saved myself $300 a month by refinancing my car loan. So idiot Mike bought a car and, of course, goes through the deal, right? Oh, take the financing, right? Here's the deal for the car. Fine. All right, I'll take the financing. I'll just refinance it anyway. So the current rate when I bought my car a little while ago was 10%, Matt. I was paying 10% interest. Yeah, this is where you laugh at Mike. 10% interest on my car loan. And I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to refinance it in a couple of months, and get out of this 10% thing. So about a year and a little bit later, I finally went to the credit union and they were like, oh yeah, we can get you a loan at, what did they tell me? I think 5.9%. I think under 6% loan, car loan, which I was ecstatic about. So did all the paperwork, took about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I was in there, had to open up accounts, get it. In fact, Matt, walked in cold, had to open accounts, registered there with the bank and then get the loan, like all of the above, sign all the stuff. They did it in like 30 minutes, under 6%. And instead of like $1,000 a month, it's like $700 a month.
So it's like they are implicitly paying you $7,200 an hour for your time.
Yes.
It's a good deal.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
First of all, I wasn't sure if I like the idea of your introduction of your alter ego, Idiot Mike. It's kind of like on Ted Lasso where he decides he wants to just be a dick for a few minutes. So Led Tasso shows up. You're so smart about everything having to do with finances. Maybe it's like Washington State. Maybe it's like you can't get good apples in Washington State because they export them all. You spend all your time exporting all of your financial wisdom, and you leave none at home for the poor Morton children who are there like an urchin, like a Dickensian urchin, like, please, sir, can I have some good ideas for my finance? Okay, so you got smart for your own money. That's great.
Yeah.
All the best coaches are in the stands. I love it. You took a dose of your own wisdom and you saved yourself a lot of money. Right. Is the take home where this helps me that maybe you should just take 5 minutes and say, if I have any loans out there that are at a super high interest rate, I might be able to save a lot of money and implicitly get paid $7,200 an hour.
There you go. Yeah, that's the takeaway. The takeaway is look at your own debt, and if do you have any high interest loans? It could be credit cards too. There's always, and I have clients that do this, have 0% Massachusetts heat loans or credit card loans, 1 year, 0% interest. So make sure, take advantage of if you have some debt at higher interest rates. How could you, either refinance that or pay that down and save yourself hundreds of dollars a month?
Well, that one piece of advice is right in line with the theme of this show, which is how in 5 minutes or less, you can do things that are great and check things off your to-do list forever. That is what we are all about. And so let's stop right there before we complicate things any further. For Mike Morton, I'm Matt Robison. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for joining us on Financial Life Planning. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to and rate the podcast on Apple iTunes or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. It makes a massive difference. If you have a comment or question, please email me, mike@mortonfa.com. Until next time, thanks for tuning in. This recording is for informational purposes only and should not be considered for investment advice. Opinions expressed are as of the date of recording. Such opinions are subject to change. I cannot guarantee the accuracy or completeness of the data presented here.